Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Rangers defeat the Minnesota Wild 3-2 in overtime on a goal by Braden Schneider. So what if I told you that the Rangers only had two 3-on-3 overtime wins in March? That'd be a low number, but the more interesting thing and just weirder thing is that the two winning goals in overtime were scored by Sam Carrick and Braden Schneider. Uh, if you took, hundreds of guesses, I don't think that you would have gotten that, maybe even more than that. But the Rangers find a way to win this game, and it almost went under the category of another blown game in the third period. It happened twice where the Rangers had a 1-0 lead going into the third. Minnesota ties it. Rangers take a 2-1 lead. Minnesota ties it, but they find a way to get it done in the 3-on-3 portion of overtime, and they improve to 32, 28, and 6. And Columbus, they lost tonight to the Vegas Golden Knights, setting up just the biggest game of the season at Columbus Saturday night, which for the Rangers will be the first of a back-to-back. They'll then head home to take on Edmonton. And for that'll start, I think maybe a 4-game home stand, if you will, for a bit. But that Columbus game is just so important. And we can discuss that at the end of the episode. And, that'll be something that'll be a major talking point, Saturday itself for that game. But look, the Rangers played a decent game. There were a lot of mistakes along the way, a lot of, things that for me are somewhat causes for concern, but it works out nonetheless. As far as, sort of news and notes for the Rangers, it does seem like Adam Fox is closer to returning. It's been a couple of practices now that he's practiced with the team in a non-contact uniform. I'm hoping, although I wouldn't say I'm optimistic about it, but maybe there's a chance that maybe he can return versus Columbus. Like, it wouldn't appear as if he's far off. And I think it's one of those things that, you're just going to find, all of a sudden, you are just going to find out that he's back. It's one of those things. I don't know how to elaborate it any more than that, but I think, decent enough signs that he's progressing. Doesn't mean he's going to be back necessarily. And to throw him in, in what would likely be, because if you play versus Columbus, it's not one of those things like in the NHL. Once you're in, you're in. It's not like, okay, you're going to play one game, sit out the next. Like, he'd play the back-to-back if that is what happens. But again, that's just pure speculation on my part. But the Rangers could really use his return in many, many ways. Arthur Kaliev is back in New York. I had mentioned in the Winnipeg episode that he had taken a hit along the boards in the third period. And he looked to be shaken up by it. And it's an upper body injury, and they're doing tests. And I don't know if it's necessarily, concussion is a decent place to go. I'm not even going to go there. It's a possibility. But the point is that enough that he, again, had to leave the team and go back to New York. So it's significant enough. And as I had kind of said, even in the last episode, like, his spot in the lineup was kind of precarious, and he is kind of shuffling in one of the remaining forward spots, one of the 12 forwards on a given game. So taking the injury aside, even if he wasn't, there's a decent chance he would have sat. What's been a theme lately is that Juuso Parssinen has now been a healthy scratch in 3 straight games. So after that Ottawa game, I guess at that point it had been 4 games for Parssinen. But now he is kind of lowest on the totem pole. But again, there's a lot of candidates there. So Brett Berard goes back in on the Carrick line with Kreider. And so again, that's kind of that spot's been kind of a revolving door with the fourth line, or really to me, it's almost more, I guess it is the fourth line. Really based on ice time, it truly is. But the Brodzinski centering Othman Rempe line has been pretty consistent in that fourth line role. But we'll see what comes of it, and someone's going to have to grab that spot. Adam Edstrom is someone that, who knows if he's back this season? It's kind of a question mark. It's possible, but even if he did come back, it wouldn't be, for another at least, I'd say 3 to 4 weeks in a best case scenario. So the Rangers are going to roll this out. But what was significant with the forwards, and then I'll discuss the defense, then we'll go into the game. Um, was one line, well, a swap that was made. One that I think could be something that helps, at least for now, right? With these changes, you find that it provides a spark, but it doesn't always last that way. And so Will Cooley and Alexis Lafreniere switched. So now it is Panarin, Trocheck, and Cooley. So Cooley on the right wing. And we've seen that a little bit. It's on his offside. He's been primarily a left winger, but it's not completely foreign to him. And Lafreniere goes back to the left wing, which we had not seen. That's his natural side. We had not seen him back there since really the end of the 2023 season, like exclusively in the Peter Laviolette era. He's basically been the right wing, mostly with Panarin and Trocheck. And even when he's not been, it's been the right wing for the most part. But he's with JT Miller and Mika Zibanejad. I think that these moves, especially Cooley with Panarin and Trocheck, I think brought about some things and gave the top six a little bit more juice. The biggest thing for me was like Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere. Like I didn't like that line. You just couldn't stick with it. Now, what was going to be the solution? I wasn't sure, right? I thought maybe there was a chance that they would kind of spread the wealth. This was more of a simple change that I think, while it may not last too long, I think that it's good because Cooley, you needed kind of a big body with a true physical style. Now, Lafreniere, like, it's not as if he's immune to throwing the body and playing that type of game, but Will Cooley, that's in his DNA. And so for him, it provides space for, Panarin and Trocheck to do their thing. And, that could be a good combination. On the flip side, with Lafreniere, it's a different look. And I think that, we really haven't seen Lafreniere, like, over time, of course, Zibanejad has been with Lafreniere, but not too often, considering that they've been teammates since the 2020-2021 since really the 2021. It's been now 5 seasons that they've been teammates, and they haven't, been on the same line a whole hell of a lot. And I just think it could be interesting maybe to see what, Lafreniere on the same line as JT Miller can bring. I think that it did. I think that it was good for Will Cooley. Their styles are more similar than Lafreniere. But let's just see how it goes. And I think early returns were good. So glad that they made that move because, again, like, things to me were very stale. And I think now you get a little bit more defensive awareness as well with Panarin and Trocheck. So I think it makes sense. And it's one that I truly hope does work because I think that it can help the team. On the defensive side, things have stayed the same. Calvin DeHaan continues to be the healthy scratch. And the pairs have been the same. The thing for me is the Carson Soucy Zach Jones pair scares the hell out of me. And look, with Zach Jones, at least like on the Jonny Brodzinski goal, jumping ahead there, Brodzinski, who's from Minnesota, so it meant a lot to him. He scores a big goal in the third period, which at the time, maybe could have been the game-winning goal. It wasn't. But Zach Jones makes a nice play there. But surrounding that were some penalties, bad ones at that. And I think Zach Jones, again, what he brings to the table, both good and bad, right? And I think that he has a style of play that is different from the rest of the defensemen on the team, right? There is an offensive-minded style that the other 5 defensemen don't really have. That said, though, the defense can get scary. It really can, and he is undersized. But like Carson Soucy right now, my God, it is he has really played as the true 6th defenseman. I'm very curious to see when Fox comes back, what are they going to do? Now, my first thought is that Zach Jones is likely the scratch. Is there a world where it's Soucy? I guess there is, but I don't know. But the one thing I'm telling you, and there's a chance it happens, but based on this ice time, there's no way. Because Soucy's not really, this game, he played less than 14 minutes. By the way, against his former, Minnesota team who drafted him. Not that that is relevant here, but just a side note. But Soucy, he's looking bad. He's looking pretty bad. And it's been a rough year for him. The thing is, he's had success in the past. And it's not like he's old. He's been around at this point, but he's not an old player. He's under contract next year as well. So, the Carson Soucy story is one that is going to take some time. But just based on the eye test, it's looking bad. He looks worse to me than Calvin DeHaan. Not for nothing. And I thought that DeHaan, who was probably better than I would have thought. Even he had some rough moments, like in that Washington Capital game, which I guess goes down as DeHaan's last game that he played since he's been out the scratch. Like there were some tough times. And with Susi, it's just like, there's no mobility. He's not aggressive really at all. And it's leading to just guys open in the defensive zone. So that stands out to me. That's a scare. That Susi Jones pair is scary to me. And when Fox comes back, I'm curious as to what they do. My guess is that Zach Jones goes to the bench. And I don't know. Like, I think it's a shame because Miller Borgen has become such a solid pairing, but they may have to be broken up in order for this to work. Or what you could do, you could break up Wackenheidt and Schneider as well. You cannot have Susi with Fox. Then you're basically like, then what's the point? Then you may as well, like, Lindgren Fox. It's like you're doing it over again, basically, with even less chemistry. And at least Lindgren Fox was good at it for a time. So I'm jumping way ahead. That's not really relevant so much to this game, but it's just a thought that it will become something that is important. But look, all in all, though, this was a pretty solid, well-played game with the Rangers. They very much, they deserved the 2 points. I mean, Minnesota could maybe say the same thing as well. It was fairly even. And Igor Shesterkin was very good, yet again. So Igor, and even in the Ottawa game, that's the thing. Igor has been more good than bad lately, but like some of the times that he's been bad, it's been in very key moments. And so that Ottawa game stands out where there were just, a couple goals there at very inopportune times that weren't great. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can do against Columbus, because it's going to be him, right? It bothered me that it was quick against Columbus last time. It's going to be Igor this time. Now, how they handle the Edmonton game, we'll see when we get there. It'll probably be quick, right? I mean, regardless of what happens in the Columbus game, it'll probably be Jonathan Quick, but it does scare me. But at least Igor will play the big Columbus game. So as far as this game goes, a really great goalie matchup between Igor Shesterkin and Philip Gustafsson. Just, really solid on both ends, just making good saves. Was impressed by the goaltending on both sides. Now, look, like, what the Johansson goal and the Brodzinski goal were two very similar goals. And I think I'm gonna give credit to the shooters a little bit. Now, those would be the ones that you could critique, right? To me, the other goals, there's nothing. You're not doing anything on the other goals. Those were just, no one's stopping those. But shots from distance, you'd like to be stopped. But again, I think overall a very good goaltending matchup. So, where do we begin? First period. And I thought the Rangers, again, you could tell from the outset, like there was a defensive mindset. And that's what the Rangers have to do. The Rangers, if they're to make the playoffs, it's going to have to be an overall team buy-in as far as playing defensive-minded hockey. And that will lead to offense. I know that sounds cliche, but look, when you see these high-scoring games, for the most part, Rangers aren't winning them, right? Like when we talk about games that have 8, 9, 10 goals in them, check them out. Like Rangers aren't usually winning them. When it's more low scoring, and not to say the Rangers win all those, right? Winnipeg was a low scoring game. They lost that one, but a lot of them, that's where they're getting the points. Early on, a play that comes to mind is Artemi Panarin makes a bad turnover, which leads to former Ranger Matt Zuccarello's really most dangerous chance. It was a nice save by Shesterkin. So Zuccarello did not get on the score sheet. Still playing really, and he's one of those players that it's not that surprising that he's still playing well with his stature and style of play. But Zuccarello with a nice opportunity that was stopped by Igor. But a bad turnover by Panarin. But, I thought that Artemi, he certainly got better as the game went on. First period, from there, you get a delay of game penalty on Zach Bogosian at 11:04. Ranger power play does not score. That Ranger power play continues to be a problem. And a major reason why you need to get Adam Fox back in there. I'm not blaming Zach Jones. And look, I think that's you have to have him out there. Like, that's your best option. It's better than Keandre Miller, and you're not going 5 forwards. So it's what it should be. He's got offensive creativity, but it's not working. And I think getting Fox back out there at least, provides a semblance of calm and maybe gets them back going a little bit. Look, the power play this year has been a massive disappointment. They're sitting at maybe 23rd, 24th in all of the NHL. Um, it's a reason why they are where they are in the standings. And so that continues to be a problem. Minnesota kills that off. And then at 16:39, Zach Jones holds the stick of Justin Brazeau. Definite penalty. What's been bothering me? Zach Jones is at times he's been complaining about penalties that are like legit calls. That has bothered me just a bit. And so Minnesota doesn't score on that. And so we go to the second period. And the second period was a pretty good one for the Rangers. Played well. It was probably their best period. And it was reflected on the score sheet too, as Vincent Trocheck, who had not scored a goal in a while, scores his 18th goal of the season from Cooley and Keandre Miller. So basically a play where Will Borgen finds Panarin. And Panarin makes a move on the left side, holds on to it. And then Keandre Miller makes a nice, smart play. At least it looked that way. I think that was intention, where he finds Will Cooley in front. Keandre was kind of at a weird angle, and he's able to kind of, again, just get it in Cooley's direction. Cooley has body position, but his back's to the net. He finds Vincent Trocheck coming in. And again, that's where this combination can, do some interesting things if they stay together. And Vincent Trocheck's initial shot, he fans on it. However, he's able to get his own rebound and score past Gustafsson. This is what I was talking about, I think, last episode, where a lot of the goals you see in the NHL are kind of off broken type plays. Trocheck he benefited from the fact that he messed up. It's kind of like the last game against Minnesota. Who was it? Perfetti? I forget who it was on the goal by Velarde. I think it was Perfetti who fans on it, but then he gets his own, he doesn't lose control completely, and Igor's out of position. So Trocheck, good job by him, again, assisted by Cooley and Keandre to give the Rangers a 1-0 lead. Then you get a couple of Minnesota penalties throughout the second period, but the Rangers don't take advantage. It's Hinostroza slashing Will Cooley at 15:57 and Marcus Johansson slashing Brett Berard at 18:47. So again, another drawn penalty by Berard, if nothing else. And Berard, actually, I should mention, in the first period, had a really good opportunity that squeaked by Gustafsson, but actually somehow didn't go. It was weird. It got behind him, and you think, okay, it'd go towards the back of the net. It doesn't. It kind of just stops and goes the other way. But it's not as if, look, Berard has not been amazing by any means, but I still do believe, given the options, that I'd like to see him in the lineup. I would. But the Rangers don't score on these power plays. And we go to the third period where that Johansson penalty continues and Minnesota kills it off. So the Rangers have a lead going to the third. And lately, that's been a little bit touch and go. It has been, especially in games like this, which was a very even style game. Then you get the typical bad officiated Matt Rempe penalty call. At 1:55, Matt Rempe is called for interfering with, who was it, Devon Shore? I believe it was. Let me just confirm that real quick. Yes. And really what happens is Devon Shore just skates into Matt Rempe. I think Shore might have just gotten off the bench. I want to say that one of the players just got off the bench, and it was I think it was Shore. Either way, whether he got off the bench or not, he's going in Rempe's direction, and Shore's the one that goes down. It's because Rempe's a big guy. So look, I've said it before. Rempe has gone over the line in the past. So some of the stuff with the big hits is warranted. But more of the little infractions, it really is something that's been a problem. And it ends up making it where Rempe ends up being a detriment, but not because it's his fault, but because you end up getting these key penalties against him. Now, look, it kind of cost the Rangers the game against Winnipeg, and it almost cost them this game too. Because yet again, the Rangers penalty kill, it does a nice job, but with 1 second to go in it, it is Marcus Johansson scoring a 6th goal of the season from Nyquist and Spurgeon at 3:55. And this was one, again, the PK was doing the job, but too much room was given by Carrick and Will Cooley, where Johansson goes in through them easily, and then Johansson kind of uses Braden Schneider as a screen and snaps it by Shesterkin. He had a really nice shot, but a bad job in terms of closing gaps by the Rangers right there. So it was kind of an on-the-rush goal. It wasn't really your prototypical power play goal, but nonetheless, it goes up against the penalty kill stats. So the Rangers penalty kill, which is up there, is taking a little bit of a hit in ways that it doesn't deserve. Again, this is where the eye test is important, where to me, the Ranger penalty kill within the zone, they're doing a really nice job, but they are giving up power play goals lately. They all count the same. And so it's tied up at 1. Then you get a really nice response goal by Jonny Brodzinski, his 7th goal of the season from Zach Jones and Rempe. So that's the nice thing too, is that Rempe actually does get an assist. He just touches the puck. Zach Jones does a lot of the work here. And this was good Zach Jones, where he's able to he takes the puck and just goes with it. And the defense kind of has to sit back a little bit, and it provides just a little bit of room for Brodzinski. So, again, it was kind of an end-to-end sort of deal by Zach Jones going along the boards, actually, and finds Brodzinski in the middle of the ice, and Brodzinski's not afraid to shoot the puck. He's one of the few Rangers that he'll just shoot it, and he's got a pretty nice shot. And it goes glove side past Gustafsson to give the Rangers a 2-1 lead. It would have been cool if that was like the Rangers won 2-1 because Brodzinski is from Minnesota. That would have been a nice story. It still is a good story. The Rangers win the game, and he had a very key goal. Rangers take a 2-1 lead right there. However, very, very soon after that, not even really with the play, Zach Jones is called for a double minor high sticking Marcus Johansson at 6:58. You can't have that. You can't have that. And look, it wasn't anything that he did intentionally wrong, but you got to be careful with your stick there. It's very needless. And again, a 4-minute power play, to which Minnesota on the first half of that power play ties the game. Frederick Gaudreau scores his 15th goal of the season from Hartman and Spurgeon at 8:42. And Rangers, there was hopes to clear it. I wouldn't even say a chance. Will Borgen tried to clear it, but Gaudreau on Minnesota got a piece of it. So it kept it in. Zibanejad was out there, Kreider, and ultimately Earl Vakanainen just gives way too much room to Gaudreau, where Gaudreau's back is to Shesterkin, and he kind of realizes, okay, Vakanainen's not close enough to me. I'm going to sort of I have enough room to I think it was a back. Actually, no, I think it ended up being a forehand wrist shot in. Either way, nothing that Igor could do about it, and Minnesota ties it at 2. So now you also, because it was scored in the first half of the power play, you get the back end. But the Rangers do kill that portion off, luckily. And after that, there was a really good opportunity where Carson Soucy and Zach Jones were on, and they gave way too much room, I think, to maybe Zach Bogosian. There might have been another opportunity where Marcus Johansson had a nice chance off of Igor's helmet. All I know is that Minnesota really had an opportunity to take that lead at certain points, and the Rangers were kind of fortunate to be tied. But things did settle down as regulation continued, and the Rangers themselves had some chances, but we go to overtime. And again, it had been a struggle. The Rangers are 1-6 going into this point, and Minnesota's a good 3-on-3 team. They had a good record. I forget what the record was. It might have been 5-2. Something along those lines. It was a pretty good record. They're a strong team in overtime and shootout. And the Rangers, here is what was crazy to me. The fact that Chris Kreider was out there first with Zibanejad and K'Andre Miller, and I'm fine with that, right? I understand, if Adam Fox was healthy, then I would have a problem with K'Andre Miller being the first one out there. With Fox out, I'm not going to be up in arms about it. Your options are limited. But the fact that you have Kreider, I mean, what are we doing here? That is where Laviolette has me very confused. I don't get it at all, but that's what happened, and it almost cost the Rangers. And what ends up happening is Kreider ends up doing a very risky thing that worked out. He left the ice, which kind of put Minnesota at a little bit of a man advantage, like a 3-on-2 ever so briefly. But Minnesota eventually loses control of the puck. Again, this could have been a Minnesota goal. So the Kreider takes a chance, one that was kind of reckless, but it worked out. And not for nothing, I was kind of glad he got off the ice. So then what ends up happening is Panarin and JT Miller are on the ice. Zach Jones had replaced K'Andre, but then Zach Jones leaves. Zach Jones gives it to Panarin. Panarin starts to go into the Minnesota zone where he drops it off to JT Miller. JT Miller then, and this is what he does, JT Miller, when he's going well, he just with reckless abandon he goes to the net. Miller drops it off to Panarin. Panarin makes a little bit of a nice move, gives himself a little bit of room, and Braden Schneider comes on the ice straight from the bench, replacing Zach Jones. And remind you, JT Miller made contact with Gustafsson, but the lucky thing was that it was enough time had passed where Gustafsson got back into position. There's no doubt, JT Miller, if somehow Braden Schneider scores a little bit sooner, that's not counting. In fact, they did check for goal interference, but Gustafsson got reset. No doubt about it. But a good job by JT Miller thinking, I'm going to the net. It gives Panarin a little bit of room. Again, JT Miller and Panarin, you probably couldn't ask. Those are probably the two forwards that you would want on in this situation more than anyone. But Braden Schneider, with just an absolute doozy of a move, makes a nice play around Brock Faber, who is one of the best young defensemen in the league. Really was very good for the Team USA and the Four Nations tournament. And Schneider not only makes the move around Faber, he goes backhand roof job. Just a great goal past Gustafsson. Didn't know he had that in him. But Braden Schneider is your hero. He scores his 5th goal of the season from Panarin and JT Miller at 151 of overtime. And the Rangers get a much-needed win to end the 4-game losing streak. If they lost this game, that would have been 5 in a row. Granted, like let's say lost in overtime, that would have been 3 points, 0-2-3. But 1-2-2 is a hell of a lot better. And they really needed to just cut that. And now it's, again, a massive, massive game against Columbus. Rangers right now are tied with Columbus, and Columbus has a game in hand. I can't state enough how big this is. Now, look, after the Columbus game, you still have 15 games remaining. I'm not going to go and say that if you lose, the season is over. I'm not going to. But it's in the Rangers' best interest to win this game. It just is. It'll make the road a lot easier, put it that way, because you don't play Columbus again. And right now, Columbus, for me, that is the main team to focus on. It's to a point right now where, yeah, the Devils and Senators, like those are two teams that certainly you want to keep your eye on. It's not as if you can't catch them, but it's going to be tough, truly. And you don't play Ottawa again, you play the Devils one more time. This is your last game with Columbus. You won a big game at Columbus, a little over a month ago. In regulation, but you just less than a week ago, 5 days ago, lost at home in brutal fashion. And the Rangers need to avenge that game and get the job done. So I'm billing this, and it's true. I mean, this is not anything crazy to say. It's the game of the season for the Rangers to this point. And we'll see what they can do, but at least they're going in on a good night of results as the Rangers win and the Blue Jackets lose. But the Rangers, coming off of, again, winless in 4, they're able to find a way to beat the Minnesota Wild in overtime by a score of 3-2 on a game-winning goal by Braden Schneider.